In a bustling city in West Africa, where modernity intertwined with deep-rooted traditions, a baby girl named Nkem was born. But Nkem was different. From the moment she entered the world, the doctors and nurses noticed something unusual. She had both male and female physical traits. The hospital staff exchanged knowing glances, while her parents, Adana and Chijioke, were filled with fear and confusion. They did not understand what it meant for their child to be born this way. In many parts of the world, including Africa, people like Nkem are called hermaphrodites, or more accurately, intersex individuals. According to global health organizations, about 1.7% of people are born with intersex traits. This means that out of every 1,000 babies born, around May 17th have a condition where their physical characteristics do not fit typical definitions of male or female. In many African societies, however, little is known about intersex people, and they are often misunderstood or even feared. As Nkem grew, her parents decided to raise her as a girl to avoid confusion and stigma. They dressed her in bright dresses, styled her hair with colorful beads, and tried to make her life as normal as possible. But deep inside, they were constantly worried. What will happen when she grows older? Adana often asked Chijioke in the privacy of their apartment. Will people accept her? Chijioke had no answers. Nkem was a bright and happy child. She loved to dance, sing, and help her mother around the house. But as she reached school age, things began to change. Children are naturally curious, and they began to notice that Nkem was different. Some of them would whisper behind her back, while others were not so subtle. Why does Nkem look like a boy? A classmate asked one day. I heard she is not a real girl, another whispered. Soon, the teasing turned into outright mockery. The other children would laugh at her, call her names like half-boy or confused child, and sometimes refuse to play with her. Nkem did not understand why they treated her this way. She would come home crying, asking her mother, Mama, why do they say I am not normal? Adana would hold her tightly and whisper, You are special, my dear. Do not listen to them. But the city was not always kind. In the eyes of some neighbors, Nkem was an abomination, a child born out of a curse. Some whispered that her family must have offended the gods. Others believed she brought bad luck. There were even suggestions that her parents should take her to a traditional healer to fix her. Chijioke, who was already struggling with his own fears, started to avoid social gatherings, feeling ashamed of the whispers that followed him wherever he went. Despite the harsh treatment, Nkem continued to excel in school. She loved learning and dreamed of becoming a teacher one day. Her teachers noticed her intelligence and encouraged her to keep going. However, the bullying never stopped. One day, while playing outside their apartment complex, a group of older boys cornered her and laughed cruelly. Show us if you're a boy or a girl, they taunted. Humiliated and scared, Nkem ran home, tears streaming down her face. One evening, Adana sat Nkem down and told her the truth. You were born different, my child, she said gently. Some people do not understand it, but that does not make you any less valuable. You are a gift from Chukwu, God. Nkem was silent for a while, then asked, Mama, are there others like me? Adana did not know the answer, but she decided to find out. She took Nkem to a city hospital where a kind doctor explained everything about intersex people. You are not alone, Nkem, the doctor said with a warm smile. There are many people like you around the world, and you are perfectly normal in your own way. This knowledge gave Nkem strength. She began reading books and articles about intersex individuals. She learned that intersex people have existed throughout history and that many cultures once considered them special. But as societies changed, their differences became a source of fear and misunderstanding. Determined to change how people saw her, Nkem decided to educate her community. It was not easy. When she tried to talk about intersex people, many refused to listen. Some even warned her parents to stop her from spreading strange ideas. But Nkem did not give up. She spoke at school, telling her classmates about the things she had learned. Slowly, a few people began to see her in a different light. Her biggest breakthrough came when she was invited to a youth empowerment seminar to talk about her experiences. Standing in front of the crowd, with her parents by her side, she spoke bravely. "I am Nkem," she said, "and I was born different. But I am not a mistake. I am not a curse. I am just like you." The audience listened in silence. Some of the older attendees shook their heads, but many of the younger ones nodded in understanding. After her speech, a few students came up to her and apologized for teasing her. Even some adults started to change their views. Nkem's story reached beyond her community. A journalist from a national newspaper came to interview her, and soon, her story was published online. People from different cities who had intersex children reached out to her family for support. Nkem felt hopeful for the first time in a long time. Years passed, and Nkem grew into a confident young woman. She became an advocate for intersex rights, traveling to different places to speak at conferences and schools. She helped educate people about intersex conditions and worked with doctors to ensure that intersex children received proper medical care and support. Looking back, Nkem was grateful for the challenges she faced. They had made her stronger and more determined. She no longer felt ashamed of who she was. Instead, she embraced her identity and used her voice to help others like her. One day, she returned to her childhood neighborhood, where things had changed. People no longer whispered behind her back. Instead, they greeted her with smiles and respect. The children who once teased her now looked up to her as a role model. Nkem had conquered against all odds, and she was finally happy. Her journey was not just about acceptance, it was about changing hearts and minds. And as she stood in the community center, surrounded by her people, she knew that she had truly found her place in the world. This story shows that with understanding and courage, intersex individuals can overcome the challenges they face and lead fulfilling lives. By spreading awareness and educating people, we can create a world where everyone is accepted for who they are.